If you're one of the 9 million households in the U.S. who owns a timeshare and you're experiencing a little bit of buyer's remorse, it can be a challenge to navigate that agreement once you've signed on the dotted line. Now, Timeshare Exit industry expert Gordon Newton is here with some advice. Gordon, thanks for joining me.
Alex, thanks for having me.
Of course. So I suppose we should start off first by talking about timeshares and telling us a little bit about them.
Well, you know, timeshares, last year they sold $9.2 billion worth of timeshares last year alone. So it's a big industry. Right now it's estimated that there's a little over 9 million timeshare owners in the United States. But at any given time, 1 million of those timeshare owners are looking to end their timeshare ownership, which means they've reached the full life cycle of their timeshare ownership. And that's what we're here to talk about today, which is why I wrote the Consumer's Guide to Timeshare Exit, to help those timeshare owners.
Well, it can be tricky, like I said, to get out of that contract. I'm sure there's a lot of different clauses, et cetera. So what advice would you give to timeshare owners to make a clean exit?
Well, I tell people if you've reached that point where you're looking to end your timeshare ownership, you're never more vulnerable than when you're ending your timeshare ownership. There are a lot of scams out there to be made aware of. So education is crucial. That's why I wrote the Consumer's Guide to Timeshare Exit. It's a free download. You can go to myexitguide.com and get educated. Knowledge is power. It will help prevent you from falling victim to some of these what are more common scams for me. We've been doing this for, you know, well over a decade now. So this is a culmination of everything we learned over the last decade.
And why are these contracts so tricky to end in the first place?
Well, I think they were designed that way from the beginning, right? I mean, you know, it was a good thing initially to be able to say, look, this is going to be handed down to your kids. Nobody ever be able to take it away from you. It'll go to your kids' kids. It'll stay with you for generations. But people need to understand that timeshares are not a financial asset. They're not an asset. They are a liability. And the longer you hold on to that liability, the more money you're going to lose. So the joy that you get out of your timeshare, that's your return, right? So they're not financial assets. You're not going to make money off of these things. The value in them is purely in the joy.
And is it because they're not assets that people can't actually just sell their timeshare? Because that seems like the easy way out for most things.
Well, that's with anything else, whether it be a living room lamp, a car, or anything else, you should have a reasonable expectation of being able to sell your timeshare, even for a fraction of what you paid for it. But this industry, it's a little bit different. Like I stated before, there's about 1 million folks at any given time that are looking to end their timeshare ownership, so there is a glut of inventory on there. And these people have pain. They want to end their maintenance fee obligation. They want to end their special assessment fee obligation. They're no longer using their resort, but they're still financially on the hook, and they want the pain to stop. You know, the other thing that we touch on in the Consumer's Guide is that, you know, many people don't realize that you're in competition with the resort when you're going to sell. So some resorts have actually taken measures to devalue your timeshare the moment it goes on the resale market, because you're competing with them. They want to be able to sell their timeshares that they have inventory of. They don't necessarily want you to sell yours. So you know, all this information is in the Consumer's Guide, and that's where I tell people, begin with education. Understand what you own versus what you believe you own or what you were sold.
Well, and that's why you caution people against going directly to the resort to try to negotiate this, because they're always going to be looking out for themselves rather than your best interest. And so if we want to get this guide, where can we actually go and get it?
You can go to myexitguide.com, and you know, it answers some of these, you know, painful questions, and some of these folks might be surprised to learn what these answers are. So there are a lot of people out there promising to be able to help with their pain. The industry is changing in that regard. There's a lot of new entrants in this industry, which in part is why I wrote this. It will help navigate and find a viable, safe, legal end to your timeshare ownership. Whether it's us at Newton Group Transfers or somebody else, there is a checklist in that guide that'll help you vet anybody.
Very good, Gordon Newton. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Stay where you are. We'll be right back.